So if you've been thinking of buying or selling a home this year, by now you've probably read the giant news about the landmark settlement that's going to dramatically change the cost of both buying and selling a home come this summer. However, what are the implications in the market leading up to that over the next couple months? That's what we're going to look at on today's episode. So on today, I'm going to go over my April 2024 housing market forecast for Orange County. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so for this month's update, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So usually I spend a decent amount of time on numbers as well as going over what to expect for both buyers and sellers. However, because there's been so many questions over the last 2 weeks about how this National Association of Realtors settlement is going to impact the market, I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about what to expect over the next couple months as both buyers and sellers, and a little bit less time on the numbers. So let's go ahead and dive right into the numbers, because you do want to understand what the market is currently doing before we start looking forward. So right now in Orange County, we're hovering around 2,100 homes. Now, last month at the start of the month, we were just a little under 2,000. So yes, inventory is going up, but not super significantly. On top of that, the amount of transactions that we've had in March has definitely gone up a lot more than April. We're hovering right around 450 closings every single week, whereas in April, it was about 375. So this data is just indicating that the spring market is in full effect. We're starting to see sales pick up, more people listing their home. That's completely expected for this time of year. So the last data point that I do want to go over, because it's very important to know, is how fast the market is moving right now. And it's definitely picking up steam. So when we look at the month of March, excluding the last couple days, because I'm recording this a few days before the end of the month, right now, 65% of all homes have been going into escrow in less than 2 weeks, which is a dramatic uptick from February, which was at 59%. And when you look at how many homes that have gone into escrow in less than a month, right now we're at 76% of all homes on the market in Orange County have been going in escrow in less than a month versus 72% last month. So you can definitely see that the market is picking up steam. Now, looking at numbers is one thing, but being in the market, going to open houses, placing offers for buyers, seeing what type of offers are coming in for sellers, I am definitely seeing the market get a lot more competitive. In fact, it's been so competitive over the last 2 or 3 weeks in the Orange County housing market. I'm starting to tell buyers it's back to when it was at the beginning of COVID, and we're starting to see multiple offers on most homes right now. The last couple offers I've placed, we've had 5 to 10 offers on every home. I recently had a buyer go in $70,000 over asking price and they got beat out by someone else. I've even heard over $100,000 easily in some different deals as well, over asking price, because there's so much competition right now. Buyers are again having to lower their contingencies, remove appraisal contingencies, and it's getting extremely competitive. So appreciation is happening at a much faster rate than the beginning of the year right now, and that doesn't seem to be turning around anytime soon. Interest rates did spike a little bit in March, however, they're starting to fall again, and we're back below 7%, and that's only going to increase the amount of buyers coming into the market. So again, as we go through April, expect it to be very competitive. You're not ready for that as a buyer to be able to look at a home, place an offer quickly, and make sure it's very competitive. You're going to be losing out on home after home after home. And right now in Orange County, even though we have seen inventory tick up a little bit, we are still way below where it usually is for this time of year, and we have a lot more demand in the marketplace than homes. So again and again, over the last 3.5 years, it's the same story. You're seeing appreciation happen. There's a lot of competition going on. If you're trying to buy a home, it's very hard right now. If you're trying to sell a home, if you price it correctly, it's move-in ready, you can expect to get multiple offers before the end of the first weekend. Okay, so knowing where we are in the housing market right now, as well as taking into account what's expected to happen once we hit July based on that National Association of Realtors settlement, which, side note, if you don't know about that or want to learn more about it, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out the link right up here. I did a whole video about it when it first came out, so that way you can learn a little bit more. I'll also post it at the end of this video as well. But basically, to sum it up, the way commissions currently work right now for real estate agents is the seller and the selling agent negotiate a set commission rate, let's say 5%, and then the selling agent would typically split that with the buying agent. So that way the selling agent gets 2.5%, the buyer's agent gets 2.5%, and the buyer basically gets professional representation during the entire transaction, and in most cases they don't have to pay for that. So it was a big advantage to the buyer. However, based on this new settlement, that has now been decoupled, which basically means the buyer is now going to be responsible responsible to pay the buyer's agent, and the seller is now going to be responsible for paying the selling agent. Now, as a buyer, that doesn't mean you're not able to negotiate with the seller and ask them to pay for your buyer agent fees, but it's not a guarantee like it used to be. So again, to learn more, stay tuned to the end of this video or check out that link I just provided. So what does this mean for the buying side of things? So buyers, although this hasn't been fully approved by the courts yet, there's a good chance that it will be because the Department of Justice has been going for this decoupling of commission for a very long time. So although you might see a few changes here and there, the commission portion of this settlement is most likely going to remain the same because they are really pushing for that decoupling, which means for you, come July, it's probably going to cost you more to purchase a home. So come July, I have a feeling that the real estate industry is going to start operating much like a lawyer or a CPA, where if you want a good one that's going to save you as much money and make the process as easy as possible, you're going to be paying a premium for that versus hiring someone that's maybe newer or maybe a part-time agent where they're going to have a discount because of that. So you're going to have to pay a premium to work with the high-end agents. Now, the important thing to understand is right now until July, that's not the case. You can choose whatever agent you want to use, and in most cases, the seller is still paying for the buyer's agent commission, which is one benefit if you're thinking of buying this year of purchasing a home before July hits, because you have a lot more options available. After July, it becomes a lot more uncertain. Okay, so what if July comes and you don't have enough money to afford that higher end professional real estate agent? What are your options going to be? So let's go over those. So number one is going to be going directly to the selling agent. So this is called dual agency in California, and it's basically where the selling agent represents both the seller and the buyer. And when you talk to the selling agent, they're going to say, yes, I'm going to represent your best interests as well as the seller's best interests equally through this transaction, but common sense should probably tell you that really can't be the case. If you're getting a messy divorce, are you going to go hire the same lawyer that's representing your significant other? Probably not. It doesn't make sense, especially for one of the most consequential financial decisions you'll ever make in your life. So ideally, that's not going to be an option that you want to look at. However, in California, unlike a lot of other states, it is still a legal option. However, I have a feeling that will probably go away pretty soon. So I'm guessing that once these new laws go into place in July, you're going to have some buyers go to selling agents, and then 6 months down the road, you're going to see a bunch of lawsuits pop up because buyers felt like they were misrepresented by the selling agent. So you're going to have all these lawsuits. California's going to look at it and say we need to protect the buyer. And I have a feeling over the next couple of years, you'll probably see dual agency in California become illegal to help the consumer. And I am completely fine with that. I never liked it to begin with. I hope it gets eliminated as quick as possible. So if you don't want to go directly to the selling agent to get that purchase done of your new property, another option might be some type of discount broker or maybe a newer agent that's going to charge you a little bit smaller of a fee. Now, in a hot seller's market that we're in right now, when you're competing with 3, 5, 10 different offers, if you don't have an experienced agent on your side, especially if on the selling side of things you're dealing with a very experienced agent, you might be getting the short end of the stick in terms of negotiation, as well as making sure you're saving as much money as possible and keeping yourself protected during that escrow process. But it is an option that will probably be available. You'll probably see a bunch of different types of models that come out with agents that might offer discounts. Let's say if they don't show you any homes and they're just doing the paperwork for you on the escrow part, or maybe they have a flat fee. It's really hard to say exactly what's going to happen with that, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of options for discount agents once July hits as well. You just have to make sure that you're very careful about finding out exactly what they're going to do for you and if it's worth taking the risk going with someone like that versus paying a little bit extra to go with that professional. And then the last option you always have is to represent yourself. So just like going into court, typically you're always going to have someone representing you that knows what's going on, knows the processes, knows how to negotiate, knows the different tricks and tips that agents will use to try to squeeze as much money out of buyers as possible. So going in not knowing that, especially if it's the first time you're buying a home, is not something I recommend, but it is always an option available to you if you want to take it. Okay, so buyers, I don't want to end on a low note with you. So let's go ahead and say that you do want to purchase a home. You would love to have professional representation, but that's just probably not an option for you because you just don't have the cash set aside. I want to go over 2 strategies that you might be able to use to still get into a home and not have to pay your agent anything, but at the same time still get that professional real estate agent help. So option number one is you have to extend your timeline. So what do I mean by this? Well, right now, like I said at the beginning, just because agent commissions are taken off the seller's side doesn't mean that sellers are not willing to negotiate for it. So if you want to use a high-end real estate agent, you can still do so. However, you have to understand, especially in a seller's market, you might place an offer, and if there's 5 or 10 offers on the property, there's probably going to be a buyer that's willing to pay their own agent out of their own pocket, and you might not be able to get that home. However, there also is going to be opportunities out there that maybe you only have 2 or 3 offers on a property, and every single buyer is asking for some type of closing cost concession to be able to help for their agent. And because of that, it's in the seller's best interest to pay those fees to the agent. You can get professional representation, still get into escrow. It's just going to take longer to find those type of homes, and you might have to place a lot more offers to find them. So if you have a longer time frame and don't have a set date where you need to move in somewhere, that's going to be an extreme advantage if you're trying to go through this process and find those sellers that are willing to give the agent side commission. And another thing you could be doing at the same time with that agent is making sure they're sending you a separate list of homes to look at that have been maybe sitting on the market for 30 or 60 days. Those homes are not getting anywhere near as much interest as the ones that just hit the market, so you might be able to submit an offer and maybe only compete with 1 or 2 other buyers or no buyers, and by doing that, you're going to have a much better shot at the seller paying for your buyer's agent fees. Now, the second strategy is going to be on the loan side of things. So traditionally, when you get a loan, right now, it's not allowed for you to include your agent's commission as part of that loan and put it into your 30-year monthly payments. So there's a way of getting around that. What you can do is, let's say you find a property that's $800,000 and you want to spend $800,000 on it. What you can do instead of offering $800,000 to the seller is you can offer $815,000, let's say, but then ask the seller for a $15,000 closing cost credit, and then you can use that credit to help pay your agent fees. Now, on the selling side of things, if you were going to offer the seller $800,000 anyway, they're not getting any less money up front. However, what you're basically effectively doing is putting in your agent's commission into the mortgage by offering to pay the seller slightly more and then asking for a credit back. Now, this is not going to work in every circumstance, but it's a strategy that you can use to help you afford that higher end real estate agent without having to cash up front. So over the next couple months, I'm sure there's going to be more information coming out almost every single week about how this is going to be implemented. Again, once it goes through the courts, I'm sure there'll be a few changes here and there. There'll be different forms we're going to use. So if you want to stay up to date on what's happening with that as a buyer, make sure you subscribe to this, because anytime there is an update that could help you as a buyer, I'm going to be putting it here on the channel so you're up to date and have all the information that you need to be able to get into a home. And on top of that, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, I also have a quick video you can check out here, and it's going to go over the top things that you could be doing to write the most competitive offer in today's hot sellers market that have nothing to do with the price. So if you are thinking of buying a home, make sure you check that out, because it could be the difference between you getting that dream home and not. And then finally, if you are a buyer trying to figure out if you should jump in the market right now or wait till July to see how things shake out, I highly recommend that you talk to a lender as soon as possible, because right now appreciation is going up quickly, interest rates are predicted to continue going down, and you're having more and more demand hit the marketplace, which means you're going to see appreciation continue to happen as we go through summer. So not only are home prices going up as we go through summer, you're also going to see those added fees happen once we hit July, and it's just going to make it harder for you to purchase a home, or more expensive, or both. And so if you can purchase right now and you're able to after talking to a lender, I highly recommend that you get into the market sooner rather than later, because it's going to end up saving you money. Okay, so now for the selling side of things. So sellers, right now, we are very close to the craziness that we saw in the housing market at the beginning of COVID, where we're seeing if you have a home that is move-in ready and it's priced and marketed correctly, you're getting a lot of interest, multiple offers within the first week, and going way over asking price. So the last couple times I've helped buyers, we're looking at placing offers $70,000 above asking price and still not getting the home right now. And actually just today, I heard of another agent that just got a home into escrow $200,000 over asking price, over market value, because there is just so much more demand than there is inventory right now. On top of that, interest rates are predicted to continue heading down. And like I just said on the buyer section, there's going to be a certain amount of buyers that see the news about what's happening with commissions and trying to jump in and get ahead of it over the next couple months before July hits. So demand is expected to continue to grow as it normally does during spring, but even more than that because of all these different things happening. So if you're trying to sell your home, you might be trying to figure out, should I sell now or should I wait till July when these new rules go to effect, because maybe I can save a little bit on commission. So like I said before, I do believe come July, you will start seeing sellers pay a smaller commission fee because they're no longer paying the full commission of buyer's agents. However, I don't think that is going to go away completely. I do believe that sellers in general probably end up crediting anywhere from 1% to 2% to the buyer for a couple of reasons. So number one, there's a reason we had that commission structure to begin with. It was to attract as many buyers to your home as possible. So even though those buyers may not have a giant down payment, if they can afford the mortgage, they were able to place an offer on your home and make it competitive. And ultimately, more buyers means more competition, more offers on your house, ultimately driving up the price and getting you the best possible price for your home. So if you take that out completely, there will be a pool of buyers that were no longer able to actually purchase your property, reducing the amount of offers you're going to get, and ultimately it could reduce the amount of profit you get from the sale of your home. On top of that, another thing to remember is that typically when you're talking to your selling agent, they're going to give you two different types of percentages based on what's happening in the transaction. So they're going to tell you that they're going to charge you a certain set percent, let's say 2.5% to sell your home, and then now you're not committing up front to pay a buyer's agent, so that's the price you're paying. However, if the buyer doesn't have a buying agent and they come to the selling agent directly, again using that dual agency we talked about earlier, then I'm going to charge you an extra percent on top of that because I have to do a lot more paperwork. I have to help the buyer as well. So instead of 2.5%, I'm going to charge you 3.5% to help both parties. So if you're willing to pay that extra percent to your selling agent to help the buyer, it makes sense to me that most sellers are also going to be willing to pay that same 1% to a buyer's agent to be able to help bring a buyer to the property, because ultimately it's going to cost the seller the same amount of money. Whether they use their current agent that's also helping the buyer, they're going to be charged 3.5%. And if another buyer comes in and has an agent, if they also give them a 1% credit as well, that's just going to attract more buyers to your house and you're not really losing any money. So I have a feeling there's going to be a large percentage of sellers that are at least willing to credit buyers 1%. But again, that's just my prediction. We're going to have to see how things shake out. It's going to be the Wild West for at least 6 months once these rules pass until we figure out a new norm in the housing market. But based on my experience, that's my best guess on what the average seller is going to be willing to pay a buyer in terms of closing cost credit. The other thing to remember as a seller is good buyer's agents also help keep transactions together. It's a two-sided thing. So if you have a bad buyer's agent that doesn't know what they're doing, like a discount or a part-time agent charging a very small fee, oftentimes they're not aware of how to keep a transaction going, negotiating, figuring out a strategy that's going to work for both the buyer and the seller to keep that escrow going. Now, this might sound like I'm going to bat for buyer's agent, but the other thing to think about as well is if you have a good buyer's agent on the other side of your transaction, they're going to be much more likely to close escrow. If you have a bad buyer's agent that doesn't know what they're doing, it's going to be harder to keep escrow together if any problems arise. A lot of bad buyer's agents are out there. For instance, they get the inspection report back and maybe it's a first-time buyer and they see a 40-page report of all the bad things wrong with the home. They freak out and they want to back out of escrow. A good buyer's agent will at least go through all that information with them, figure out what's important, what's not important, negotiate, go back and forth with you, and keep going until you can see if you can figure something out. But agents that don't know how to do that will often let the deal fall apart. So having a good buyer's agent on the other side of the transaction can oftentimes help keep the deal together and help get escrow closed. So I think overall the best way to look at these new commission rules overall for a seller right now is part of a marketing strategy. You need to talk to your agent, go over the current market conditions, figure out what's going on in your own neighborhood and what you need to do to be competitive to make sure that you're driving as many buyers into your home as possible. So again, you get the most amount of offers on your home. That competition will drive up the price. It's the best way to do it. And ultimately, you net the most amount of money. So now let's bring this all back to the beginning question. Should you sell now or should you wait till July? Well, the only reason that I caution you waiting till July is because after talking to a lot of sellers over these last 2 weeks, they have that same question as well, which means the overall mentality for sellers right now is I'm waiting till July and then I'm going to put my house on the market. So not only is July typically when you start seeing demand already start going down for the year, but you also see inventory rise to the highest levels between July, August, September, which means you're going to have a lot more competition come July and demand is going to start going down. So if you're thinking of placing your home on the market right now, I still think it's in the best interest to at least explore the option of putting your home on the market before July hits, because inventory is very low right now. And right now in today's market, if you place it on the market, price it correctly, market it correctly, you're going to get a very good price for your home and all the terms you want. Because right now, if you place your home on the market, it's already crazy as it is. And like I said, interest rates are still going down. You have more buyers jumping in because they want to take advantage of it before July hits. So you're going to be able to get a lot of competition for your home, ultimately driving up that price. And on the back end, if you're thinking about purchasing another home, maybe you wait to list until maybe the end of May. And that way, once July starts hitting, you're going to have more options to choose from in the new home that you want to move to, and hopefully a little bit less competition at the same time. So that's a strategy you want to also think about if you're trying to buy and sell at the same time, is maybe waiting closer to the summertime before you put it on the market, but get it on the market before July, before those rules hit, because you're going to see inventory start going up a lot faster once those new rules do take effect. So if you've been thinking of buying or selling a home soon, I hope this episode gave you a little bit of clarity of what to expect to happen over the next couple months. And if you do have any additional questions, feel free to comment below. Or if you want to explore your options to both buy and sell a home and want to have a free 30-minute discovery call with me where we can go over any questions you have about the housing market, you can find that link in the description below or the link in my bio, depending on where you're watching this. And again, if you want to learn more about that National Association of Realtor lawsuit, you can check out this video right here where I explain everything. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, because as new information comes out, you'll be the first to know. So until next week, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye, everybody.